Is your self-talk holding you back? I think mine might be. Welcome to Beauty and the Gi, the podcast about Jiu Jitsu and so much more. I'm Jen Eads, a worn-out blue belt because we just finished class and rounds. Oh, but I am full of curiosity and probably even more questions after today.
After today,
we fixed some things.
Good.
Which always leads to more questions.
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm AJ Klingerman, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, obsessed with Jiu-Jitsu, and just a touch under the weather.
And holding your own microphone because your podcast producer forgot to put the second microphone stand in.
My own mic stand.
Yeah, you are. With your good arm.
That's right. I can hold it with the other one too. Look. Oh,
that physical therapy is working.
Curl it.
We're making progress.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, this is a little bit different episode than we normally do. This episode, and I feel like it's going to be a two-parter.
Yes, yeah.
Has been inspired by this book. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can actually see us pointing to the book, The Mental Edge, Maximize Your Sports Potential with the Mind-Body Connection by Kenneth Baum and Richard Trubo. Mine comes complete with cats gnawing on the edge of the book because that's what happens when you get a kitty.
Speaking of which, I hear you have a new battle cry in jiu-jitsu.
I do. If they start to do something I don't want them to do, it's no kitty.
It was working really well for you today.
I know. I'm going to train Jennifer.
Perfect.
She also won't jump on the furniture when we're done.
When
she leaves.
Perfect. Just what we need.
All right. So why did you want us to read this book?
This was one of the books that Rachel recommended when we went down for her Worlds Camp. Mm-hmm. And I started reading it and I was like, okay, first of all, I want to integrate this into some of my coaching. And then I messaged you and I was like, we need to do a podcast on this.
Yes.
So you ordered the book and started reading.
I ordered the book. I started reading. I'm sad because I couldn't find it on Kindle, and that's where I make all of my notes.
Oh.
So I'm reading this book old school style with my little highlighter, making notes, and which is probably good for me to write them down to get them more in my brain anyway.
Yeah, I write in my book too, I physically write in it.
Yeah.
And I know that's blasphemous for some people, but it helps me go back. And it's fun when you reread a book and you see what was important to you last time and what's important to you this time. I think that's always really cool.
I always forget what pages I would leave those notes on, so that's why I don't write in my books. That's the only reason why.
Yeah.
I just put it on a note-taking app.
Okay.
And then I remember. Well, I don't remember. I just it's all in one place for me.
It's all in one place, yeah.
Yeah, it's all about ease.
Yeah. I like to go back to, or if you loan the book or borrow a book and there's the other person's notes in it, I think that's really cool too.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah.
Okay. The one thing I will say is I felt like he took about the first 30 pages selling you on why you needed to do this.
Yep.
It was enough for me that Rachel Casias said, read this book.
Yeah.
And then you said, read this book.
Right.
That was enough
okay,
for
I'm
me.
doing it.
I must read the book, especially when you said we're going to talk about it on the podcast. Then I felt really compelled to read the book.
Yes, that makes sense.
Motivation.
But I do think that's important for people to understand, why this is actually going to be helpful, why you want to put these practices into practice. Yeah, those are words.
Yeah.
But I think, sometimes you do have to be sold on the why of something.
Mm-hmm. Well, and as I was reading this, it was more, the light bulb went on for me that, this will be great for jiu-jitsu, but I really need it in my life.
Yes.
Off the mat.
Off the mat too. Yep. Yeah. So maybe our on and off the mat tip is to read this book.
I mean, there it is. We're starting with reversing the order. Read this book, listen to this episode, and you'll at least get some insight. And I think after you hear that, you'll be like, oh yeah, I should totally read that book. Why wouldn't I?
Yeah. So where do you want to start?
One of the first things that he talks about is your self-talk. Mm-hmm. And I know in the past, we have discussed it on this podcast, that has been an issue for me because sometimes I'm not very nice to myself on the way home.
Yeah. I mean, that's important for all of us is the self-talk and at least reframing, right? When we start to have that man, I suck. Mm-hmm. Maybe, man, that sucked instead of I suck.
Right.
Even just that little bit of transition can really help. So you're not beating yourself up. It's just that roll sucked.
Yeah.
That round sucked, whatever. But not that you personally sucked.
Right. The reframing was, and it's one of those things, I don't know that he says anything that we haven't heard before. But I think the way that he lays it out and gives examples is very helpful.
Yes, the examples. Okay, this isn't really in regards to a lot of what we'll talk about, but one thing I really liked in the examples is he talked about the guy that, like, forever they said you couldn't break 4 minutes in a mile.
Yeah.
Right? And so they're like, can't be done, can't be done, can't be done. And one guy was like, I'm going to do it. Like, I'm going to do it. And then he ran it in 3:59 and point so many seconds, right? Like just under 4. And because of that, then that next year, a bunch of people ran the mile under 4 minutes, because then it was like, okay, it can be done. And I literally wrote next to it, like, this is the rising tide.
Yes.
Right? Like, this is a part of that. Like, once somebody says you can do this, then you're like, oh, maybe I can do this.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I thought that was a great example to start the book out. And then he went into what he calls the 10 perception stretchers. So I thought it might be fun to go through those.
Yeah.
The first one is a loss becomes a gain. And it helps, going back to that whole idea of reframing, use your disappointment as a springboard to improvement. For example, today, my side control sucked. But we did things to fix it.
Yeah.
And my side control is going to be escapes from side control.
Right.
Yes. Will be better in the future. I have hope now.
Your escapes are going to be better, but so's your side control. Because we did talk about some of the things you could fix for maintaining side control too. So yeah, absolutely. That's going to be.
Today was a springboard.
Today was a springboard. And that's the thing when we talk about competing, like getting your hand raised isn't the only win, or it shouldn't be, like the various wins could be signing up for a tournament. Maybe you never thought you'd compete, or you never thought you'd do it again, or whatever that is. It's getting over the nerves leading up to it or at the tournament. It's just stepping out on the mat. There are lots of wins. It might be, being first, going after your takedown first, or your guard pull first. Like, there are multiple wins, even if you don't get your hand raised.
Yeah, very true. Number 2 was, if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things. If you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got.
Where do you see that happening in Jiu Jitsu? At least, in class and in competitions for us.
So here's a little spin on that, is that sometimes you always do what you've always done, you'll get worse.
So
not just that, like, I've seen people who at the beginning of blue have a really good game and they're constantly winning with that game, but their game does not improve. But everyone else's does. Right? So then you stop getting what you got. So sometimes it's even worse than getting what you've always got.
Oh, wow. Is that because they're afraid to, go get their guard passed and do those things that they're not as good at and actually work on them?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I do think it's fear-based that, you're worried about what happens if you let this go, if you work on new things.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, especially in class, that's the time to get your guard passed. That's the time to get tapped. Those are the times that you can work on those things. I have so many people. Ian's a great example. He's been working on his guard for like the last 6 months. And he was like, basically the first 4, it sucked, like constantly getting his guard passed. And now he's growing a lot of confidence in his guard.
Yeah.
So that helps.
I feel like getting all of the things passed.
You're not, though.
Oh, but it feels that way all the time. But I guess that's part of it. You're willing to
open up and let that happen.
Yeah.
With great risk comes great reward.
Oh, look at you tossing that one in there. Is that going in your next book?
Maybe.
Maybe. And then the next one is, this is one of my favorites. The imagination is more powerful than the will.
Ooh, tell me why that's your favorite.
So he uses this example of Dick Fosbury, who was a high jumper, and I didn't know this. This guy, Fosbury, completely changed how the high jump was done. So, people, you see them, they jump, they arch their back and go over.
Yeah.
Before that, people ran towards it and like not quite hurdled it, but jumped over it forward.
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't even know.
Yeah.
So in 1968 at the Olympics, he does it this way and sets a world record or like an Olympic record. And now this is how everybody does this high jump. But it was very unconventional, but he knew, and I think it's one of those, you know, back to, well, we've always done it this way.
Yep.
But he was an engineer, so he thought about things differently.
Yeah.
And had the imagination to say, no, like, I know how my body works. I know the mechanics of engineering. What can we do to do this differently? And it worked for him. And now this is how we do the high jump.
Yeah. I think stuff like that is so cool when you're really just willing to like think outside the box and like, but what if?
Yeah. So that was one of my favorite things so far. So that was number 4 on the perception stretchers.
That was 3, right?
Oh, that was number 3. I'm so glad I printed this list out so that we have it. And this is why you're the coach.
Counting. That's what we need here.
All right. Heading into number 4 then is bodies work perfectly, minds get in the way. That hit hard.
I bet. I
felt that deep in my bones.
Yep. I understand that. And I think that happens to us a lot, especially in competition, where your mind's like, but what if this bad thing happens? What if this bad thing happens? And so you're kind of bringing that to fruition, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of just having a clear mind and thinking, I'm going to go out and do this. I'm going to impose my will.
Well, I think that for me, that comes back to doing the micro drills, just so I don't... If I start thinking about something, that's when it goes off the rails for me. The less I have to think about around, the better the outcome, or the more likely I'm going to have a better outcome if I don't think about it.
Yeah, I want to be able to be clear-headed in a way that I could be thinking about anything. I remember PANS 2020, which feels like my best tournament I've ever done. But I remember just being so clear-headed and thinking, oh, I taught this in class last week. Or, you know, like just such a like, oh yeah, okay, we're doing this, you know, like not like, what do I do next? Or what is she trying to do? But just clear-headed that I could think in a way that was just free.
And present.
Yeah, very present.
Yeah, so that one, that was a big one for me. And then number 5, limitations are temporary. So that to me just says yet. I don't have this yet.
I like that.
Yeah?
Yeah. You're going to get it.
I am going to get it. He says to view the obstacle as temporary and not a brick wall, and then get curious about how you can get around the limitation, which then takes us back to the previous one of use your imagination. So I really like how he's kind of stacked these on top of one another.
Yeah.
And number 6 is anyone can play any sport better
than what you do, or?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. So like there's always somebody to look up to emulate.
And then I also think it means like you can go out and try any sport and you can get better at it.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I think of Snoop Dogg and all of the things that he tried at the Olympics this week or this past couple weeks.
Yeah.
And number 1, that guy was having the time of his life.
Absolutely.
And, you know, like if he felt something, I think that like a sport that really connected with him, he could go out and learn it and get better than where he is when he started the first time. Like we can get better. I think sometimes we get in our way of getting better.
Yeah. And I think we've all hit kind of plateaus. And so just recognizing that it will get better. You just have to figure out how to break through that ceiling.
And one of the things that he mentions in the book is to, you know, pick somebody to model your game after, or, you know, if they get stuck in this bad position, what do they do to get out of it? Yeah. And there's a way, a way around it.
Yeah.
So I like that. Oh, this next one was big too.
Oh, what is it?
Events have no meaning except what you give them.
Oh, definitely.
He was talking about shooting free throws. And, you know, thinking back to my high school basketball days, I shot a lot of free throws. And I shot a lot of free throws in my driveway. Like I've shot free throws my entire life, but it always felt heavier, you know, during a game if you're down. But why? I had given those free throws that importance.
Right.
I don't shoot them any differently than I shot them in my driveway.
Yeah. Or you shouldn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like if I walked to a free throw line today, I would still have the exact same setup.
Yep.
I know it's so ingrained in my body.
Yeah.
I couldn't not shoot a free throw that way.
Which cues is something we'll talk about in the next episode. And that's, the little things you do.
And that also gets back to that not thinking about it. Like, this is just, I walk up and this is what I do and it goes in.
Yeah. But then you put so much pressure on yourself that it doesn't happen that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wah, wah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's no good.
And, like that can be even just in rounds. You know that tomorrow nobody's going to remember what you messed up in the rounds from yesterday.
Right.
But you still sometimes beat yourself up the whole way home because you put too much weight on that round.
And when you think about it, that's so dumb. Like, why?
Yeah.
Why do I do that to myself?
Yeah. Yeah. It's just a round. You learn things from it. You don't have to beat yourself up for it.
Right.
Yeah. This just turned into a therapy session for you.
Goals. Goals. Which actually, okay, speaking of goals, and like every year when we do the I'm not going to really write any goals kind of thing.
And then I trick you into writing goals.
Well, I read a stat.
Ooh, what you got?
I got a stat for us, friends. The stat is, on average, according to the research, and this was over 400 studies on goal setting in sports, athletes can improve their performance by 8 to 16% just by setting goals.
Just by setting them.
Just by setting them, writing them down, looking at them. I'm sure he doesn't mean like just, think about them in your head. Like, write it down.
Yep.
Keep them in front of you.
Yeah. He says somewhere in here something about like, it's just a dream until you write it down and then it's a goal.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So there's, for our, analytical friends that like numbers and stats, there's your stat, friends. So I will be writing down goals in December. Maybe I'll even write some goals before December.
Yeah. Like stuff to do before the end of the year.
Yes. We'll see. I can't get too good too fast.
That's true. We
gotta manage expectations.
I'm a big advocate for writing down goals. So
yes,
I love that.
Yes, so that's actually going to happen this year.
Good. It just took someone else to tell her.
Right. It's like with Beth, like if my wife tells me something.
Yeah, not good.
Probably no. But if you tell me something, except when it comes to setting goals, I had to read it in a book from a dude that I don't know.
Right. Yeah. So Beth, if you want me to teach Jen anything, just message me and I'll.
Right. She doesn't listen to this podcast.
I know.
She really should, though.
She should. How rude.
I know.
The
maybe
audacity.
one of these days. Now that we're making it on video.
Ooh, maybe she'll want to watch us.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So friends.
We're so cute.
Friends, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel and you want to see us in video, then subscribe to the YouTube channel, Beauty and the Gi Podcast on YouTube. All right. Now, getting back. Number 8. This is a big one too. They keep getting bigger as we go down the list. Getting better is more important than winning. Which I think we kind of touched on when we were talking about all the rounds.
Yeah.
Because really, who cares if
and
you win a round?
There's no winning in the gym.
Right.
There's no winning. There's improving.
Yes.
But there's stalling, basically. I can sit on somebody for a whole round. And that's not good for either one of us, right? Did I win the round? Yeah. But I didn't try anything. I didn't let them try anything. Neither one of us got anything out of it.
Yeah. That feels just like a wasted round at that point.
Exactly. Unless my main goal is working on maintaining mountain. Their main goal is working on escaping. Then maybe,
Yeah.
But, that's not what we're after most of the time. That's not a win.
Oh, number 9's a good one too. Practice like you play. I feel like that's been ingrained in my brain since, piano lessons.
Yeah.
At a young age. But you practice, you go in to practice like you want to show up.
What does that mean? Are you wearing the things that you would wear? Is it just like you sit down at the piano and you're good posture and thinking through, are you trying to perform in practice? Okay.
I mean, because I think there are times where you will drill things or you'll work a certain passage, just like in Jiu Jitsu, like if we're doing drilling. But then if you sit down and you're like, this is how I want this to go. It's thinking about like, how do you walk on stage? Which we talked about. What are those first 30 seconds? What do you do when you get on the mat? What's your takedown? You lay it out in your head, which we'll get to in the visualization in the next episode. But really showing up with the posture, with the confidence, with, if I'm doing some kind of movement, which is more so like playing guitar or something, but it's this is how I'm practicing it because this is how it needs to go when I play it live.
Nice.
And then the last one, this is really good too. Like I swear, they keep getting better. I'm not just making this up. The more you expect from a situation, the more you will achieve. What did you take away from that?
Okay, I often tell people, don't compete if you don't at least think you can win, right? Like you want to at least have enough ego to go, I want to win, I can win, okay? Otherwise, you're just going out there and doing nothing most of the time, right? Like people just go out there and they're just, I wasn't expecting that. I didn't think that would happen because you didn't plan to win. But
don't be surprised that you actually pulled something off.
Exactly, yeah. Or that they pulled something off because they expect to win, right? Like, so you can't be like, oh my God, that person took me down. I didn't know that would happen. Well, they went out there to win too.
Yeah.
So I think that's the big thing is like expect that you're going to win and then you can win. That's the first step is believing that you can.
I think for me, thinking about it for just in rounds, sometimes, I know, especially as a white belt, I was like, I'm just going to survive this round. And sometimes when I go with some of the fellas, that I feel very much like I'm going to survive this round.
Yeah.
But I've been thinking about it more because we had a conversation about my frustration being stuck under mount. And rather than I'm going to survive stuck under mount, it's like, I'm not going to mount.
Yeah.
That's what I want. Not I'll survive when I get here.
Right.
That sucks.
Yep.
Let's just not go there and let's make that the expectation.
I feel like I became so much better once I started having this like deny mentality where, I'm like, absolutely not. Not today, Satan. No kitty.
No kitty. No kitty. I sound like Cartman. Yeah. No kitty.
I just felt like I got so much better when I was just like, no, you can't have that. I'm not going there. I'm not letting you do that. I'm going to impose my will.
Yeah, it feels good. It's more fun.
Yeah. I'm too much of a yes girl in most things. So like, this is a good,
exactly.
Like, no, this is where I use my nose.
If you're struggling in life off the mat to set boundaries and manage expectations and those kinds of things, start with no kitty or not today or no, we are not doing that on the mat.
Yeah.
I think the mat's a great place to start those practices.
Yeah. It's a fun place too, for sure.
Definitely. It's definitely helped me.
Yeah.
So those are the 10 perception stretchers. Which one is your favorite if you had to pick one?
I think a loss becomes a gain. I know it's the first one and you were talking about it building, but I think we can learn from our wins and our losses, but always use those losses and figure out what you have gained from it.
Yeah.
Which one's yours?
I think I'm going at the opposite end, and I'm going to go with number 10. The more you expect from a situation, the more you will achieve.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, I don't know if it's lazy, but I just tend to set the bar a little low.
Yeah.
So that might be like, manage expectations. We don't have to work as hard. And that way, nobody's disappointed, including me.
Right. I was like, mostly you, because you're the one that, is going to be the most disappointed.
Because I have to drive home with myself.
Can I read a quick passage from
Yes,
this?
please.
This is just a quick passage. It says, I had Pam sit down with a sheet of paper and write down all of her strengths and weaknesses. First, she focused on her strengths, and she began to visualize them by experiencing them fully in her mind's eye. As she focused on the things she did well, her self-confidence grew. Next, she turned to her weaknesses, but rather than letting them sabotage her, she approached them with a positive mindset determined to transform them into strengths. So then I made up sheets for all the people at the gym to fill out. And I just put, on one side, take some time to write down your strengths in your jiu-jitsu game. As you write down the strengths, I want you to really focus on them and visualize them, experience them fully in your mind. And then on the other side, I said, now I want you to write down your weaknesses. This time, though, instead of letting them sabotage you, I want you to approach them with the positive mindset. Take this time to figure out how you can transform them into strength. So I used that passage for a little worksheet for all of the members at the gym.
I didn't get a worksheet.
Well, you should have. They were sitting up there. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'll make sure you get one.
Okay, thank you.
They were sitting out, and probably I wasn't back to teaching morning class. So.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah. But I do think it can be helpful to think about it that way.
I think so too. And I think so too. Is there anything else that we need to add to these 10 perceptions? Any other thoughts on the first part of the book?
No, I think we've got a really good start here.
I'm excited to finish it now.
Yeah, me too. And I think if anybody wants to kind of write these out and send them to us, I think that'd be a really cool exercise for our listeners.
I would love that. Feel free to DM those to us. We're hanging out on Instagram at Beauty and the Gi Podcast. I'm also there at Brassy Broad Jen.
And I'm AJ Klingerman, everywhere you go.
And just a reminder, the on and off the mat tip for the week was
to read the book.
Read the book.
Yeah.
The Mental Edge, Maximize Your Sports Potential with Mind-Body Connection.
Yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
I want to hear where you're using this off the mat. Give us your off the mat tips. Send them back to us.
Yes.
That'll be fun.
That'd be a lot of fun.
All right. And we talked a lot about self-talk. If you're new to the podcast and you're like, where should I start in the back catalog? We made a starter pack for you. And one of those episodes is the downward spiral. I believe that's episode number 7. It's in the starter pack on Spotify. The link to it is in the show notes in the description for the episode. So click on that and listen to your starter pack.
Excellent.
All right. Thanks for tuning in. We've told you where to find us, and we will see you on the mat.
Beauty and the Gi is a...
Yeah, say that. Beauty and the Gi is a production of the Brassy Broadcasting Company.
And brought to you by Role Model Grappling.
Da, 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 da.